Good evening. Welcome to the State of Business on our television with me, Kavishka Pereira. Let's take a look at today's headlines. President instructs officials in Polonnaruwa to aim to eliminate poverty. CBSL presents roadmap of monetary and fiscal policies for 2019. News in detail. President Maithripala Sirisena has instructed officials to prepare development plans in the new year with the main objective of eliminating poverty. President Sirisena made this observation addressing the progress review meeting of the Pibidimu Polonnaruwa District Development Program at Polonnaruwa District Secretariat yesterday. During the meeting, the progress made in 2018 in the Polonnaruwa District Development Program and plans for 2019 were reviewed. 9,615 million rupees have been spent in 2018 for the development of the Polonnaruwa district. The discussion focused on the progress of the programs implemented for the eradication of poverty and the elimination of dangerous drugs. The President also inquired into the human resource shortcomings of the state institutions in Polonnaruwa. Discussions were also held regarding construction of a new bus depot in Polonnaruwa city, garbage management program and Polonnaruwa city development activities. The President said that discussions on projects that should be given priority should be implemented and steps will be taken to implement them. The President also requested the support of all officials for development projects that are essential for the people irrespective of party politics. Speaking today at a presentation to the roadmap of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, Governor Dr. Indrajith Kumaraswamy expressed the following.
The Sri Lankan economy faced heightened challenges in 2018, emanating mainly from the global economic, financial and geopolitical developments that adversely affected the external sector. There were also several domestic challenges. Political uncertainties, especially during the last quarter of the year, amplified the challenges to overall macroeconomic stability. Subpar economic growth continued in 2018, following subdued growth in 2017. Favorable weather conditions supported a rebound in the agriculture sector, while expansion in the services sector has been broad-based. However, industrial activities slowed in 2018, mainly due to the slowdown in the construction sector. Consumer price inflation remained low in 2018, in spite of temporary ups and downs due to volatile food prices and administrative price adjustments. In response to the tight monetary policy stance pursued by the central bank during the past 2 years, monetary and credit growth decelerated in 2018 from the higher levels observed in 2016 and 2017. Despite this, an adequate expansion of domestic credit flows, driven by demand from the private sector, was witnessed during the year. Being guided by these developments, as well as considering impending risks and challenges, we followed a cautious approach in relation to monetary policy conduct in 2018. Taking into account the favorable developments in inflation and inflation outlook, as well as the subdued performance in the real economy, the central bank signaled the end of monetary policy tightening that commenced at end 2015 by reducing the upper bound of the policy interest rate corridor in April 2018. Nevertheless, considering the impact of global developments that affected external sector stability of the economy, the central bank has not implemented further loosening of its monetary policy stance since then.
Speaking further, Governor Dr. Indrajith Kumaraswamy also elaborated on the following.
The sustained high deficits of rupee liquidity in the domestic money market compelled the central bank to reduce the statutory reserve ratio applicable on all rupee deposits of commercial banks in November 2018, while increasing policy interest rates to neutralize the impact on interest rates due to the permanent liquidity injection arising from the reduction in SRR. We followed this cautious approach with the broad aim of stabilizing inflation in mid-single-digit levels and anchoring inflation expectations to enable the economy to reach its potential in the medium term. In the external sector, the growth in export earnings was outpaced by the expansion in import expenditure. Although earnings from tourism, workers' remittances, foreign direct investment, and debt-related inflows to the government helped cushion the balance of payments to some extent. The BOP experienced significant pressure on account of foreign exchange outflows caused by tightening global financial conditions and the strengthening of the US dollar in view of monetary policy normalization, particularly in the United States, as well as the widened trade deficit. So there were both exogenous as well as domestic factors which caused these pressures. Similar to that pressure that was observed in other emerging market economies, these developments resulted in a sharp depreciation of the Sri Lankan rupee, particularly during the second half of the year. The central bank has intervened in the domestic foreign exchange market at times to prevent disorderly adjustments of the exchange rate, while allowing demand and supply forces to determine the forex level, its direction, as well as its level. The government and the central bank introduced several short-term measures to address the pressure in the external sector. The external sector developments once again highlighted the need for structural reforms to boost the tradable sector, particularly by enhancing merchandise and services exports in the medium to long run. The external sector was also affected by political instability during the latter part of 2018. Political developments, compounded by concerns regarding fiscal slippage in the lead-up to the elections, were significant causal factors in the decisions of all three major rating agencies to downgrade Sri Lanka's sovereign rating. This, in turn, negatively affected investor confidence. However, such downgrading, only on the premise of heightened political uncertainty and anticipated rather than actual fiscal slippage, cannot be justified, as there was no solid evidence of a deterioration in the macroeconomic policies or in macroeconomic fundamentals. This was evidenced by the good progress that was made in completing the fifth review of the extended fund facility of the International Monetary Fund until 26 October 2018. Sri Lanka continued to receive the assistance under the EFF, and we received the fifth tranche of the program in June 2018. We look forward to the successful completion of the IMF-EFF program in 2019. We are optimistic that staff-level agreements reached in principle with the IMF on the 26th of October on the fifth review will proceed to the next level in the coming weeks.
Stay tuned for more news after this short commercial break. Welcome back. Responding to a question raised by a journalist regarding inflation rising due to the depreciation of the rupee, Senior Deputy Governor Dr. P. Nandalal Weerasinghe made the following remarks.
Future inflation can be anchored better under inflation targeting regime. All the countries which use monetary policy framework, inflation target as a monetary policy framework, exchange rate pass-through is minimum to the prices. That is the good part of the inflation targeting regime, where inflation can be anchored well. Pass-through of exchange rates to the final prices can be contained through anchoring inflation expectation. That is what we have seen so far this year. And even our projections, we have the model-based projections. These projections of our models does not indicate any significant pass-through. Obviously, there will be certain. Even historically, if you look at 1% depreciation has, without inflation, before inflation targeting, has only 0.2% impact on inflation. But now the evidence basically is that under inflation targeting regime, it can be even lower. So that's why a lot of countries' inflation targeting framework is that you anchor inflation expectation, you allow currency to be more flexible and allow as a shock absorber to absorb local import competing industries, and that is the better part of the inflation targeting regime.
Senior Deputy Governor Dr. P. Nandalal Weerasinghe further elaborated regarding the credit growth projection of 13.5%.
Under this new monetary framework, credit growth is only an indicator. It's not a target. Target is inflation. instrument is interest rates. So the credit growth, private sector credit, overall monetary expansion, that's why if you can remember earlier monetary policy statements, used to announce overall monetary growth, private sector credit is this much, that much, that we don't see any of this now. It's because that is only an indication to tell us where the pressures come into the currency, where the credits are going. So basically, there's no direct relationship between monetary aggregates and inflation and output now. That is why we are not too much concerned about whether it's 13.5 or 15% or 17%. It wouldn't make a big difference in terms of our final target of inflation and the output. That's why we no longer, in our monetary policy statement communication, we don't focus too much on aggregates, monetary aggregates. I think maybe we will end up at 15%, and we expected that's to be 13.5 or 14%. It doesn't make a big difference. I think your question is valid. Important one is that it gives us an indication credit is growing at a higher rate than we expected. Then from the macroprudential point of view, we need to look at where the credits are going, for personal consumption, real estate, what are sectors. Obviously, then we can bring in certain macroprudential, say it's for vehicle imports, there's for gold imports, there's for real estate, or there's for apartments. For that purpose, it is useful. That's why we are still monitoring, analyzing those information. Not necessarily that will have impact on growth and inflation.
Sri Lanka's investment promotion agency, the Board of Investment, signed an agreement with the Australian Academy of Hospitality recently to set up an academy to provide education in the hospitality industry. The Board of Investment signed 2 agreements for over $5.4 million to construct service apartments and also to set up a hospitality academy in Colombo. Arc Estate Private Limited will invest $5.7 million to construct a service apartment complex at Horton Place, Colombo 7. The other project signed by the BOI was the Australian Academy of Hospitality, which will set up the Australian Academy of Hospitality in Alexandra Place, Colombo 7, in partnership with Evolution Hospitality Institute in Sydney, Australia. The Australian Academy of Hospitality provides quality programs from certificate level to advanced diploma in hospitality management. Earn as you learn paid internships while studying internships are an integral part of all hospitality management programs offered at the Australian Academy of Hospitality. Students will therefore have the opportunity to recover part of the cost from the training allowance they receive during the internships. Stay tuned for stock updates after this short commercial break. Welcome back. Trading at the Colombo Stock Exchange ended on a mixed note today. The All Share Price Index gained 9.83 points to close at 6,062.20, and the S&P SL 20 dropped 24.11 points to close at 3,111.07. The turnover was 211.4 million rupees and 12 million shares were traded. Next up is Forex rates. Well, that's all the news we have for today. Join us tomorrow at the same time for more of the latest updates. Thank you and good night.